This is our fresh air break. Hello. Hi there.
Oh, we got a visitor.
This is Archie. Archie was there with us. He went to this one.
Yeah, if you watch the video, you probably saw Archie running around on the trails at Cascade Park, enjoying the view up at the waterfall observation platform. He's a lover. He likes to crawl all over everybody, but he's a good boy.
He did wear his collar for the video, so he looks very nice and proper.
Yeah. So Elyria is our home station for Amtrak, right? So we've kind of are more familiar with that place than any other Amtrak station that we've been to.
So Cascade. I wanted to talk about Cascade.
You want to
start.
talk about Cascade Park?
Yeah, I think that was really a highlight for you, and so maybe you could talk about your experience, and then I'll throw my stuff in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, Cascade is my favorite thing about Elyria in general. And if I were visiting on the train and this wasn't my home station, it would definitely be at the top of my list. It's just an amazingly beautiful park. They've got an amazing playground out there. You can hike the trails up and down both forks of the river. There's 2 different waterfalls to enjoy, like impressive waterfalls, not piddly little waterfalls that you have to hike 15 miles to. You can just take a short little hike on a mostly paved path to get to one of the falls, and then the other falls literally right next to a parking lot and an observation deck that you just get out of your car and walk straight to.
The big falls that you go out to that path and trail for, you can actually just see them from the top from the road.
Yeah.
So you could just walk down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be an expert hiker.
And I got some footage from all the different angles too when we were out there shooting. It was good getting to explore those things. But yeah, we haven't actually been down to Cascade since the weather kind of broke this year. I'm looking forward to taking the pup back out there and hiking some of those trails, maybe going some of the places we haven't visited yet. So
yeah, I think there's some of the eastern side that we haven't been to. So sort of like Eric was saying, it's 120 acres. And I think the eastern section is 55 acres, and that was a later addition. So usually when we go, we stick to the West Falls area. But like you said, because of the glaciers and stuff in this area, we have some really unique rock formations. And when you're walking around in these areas, they're just massive. Some of these rock outcroppings are 40 plus feet above your head. They are massive.
You did all kinds of research on how the park was utilized throughout the years. I remember you talking about a bear cage and some other things like that. What was your favorite thing that you learned about the park?
I think one of the coolest things was just what it was like when they first started settling the area. So this area was inhabited by the Eries, and it was known as the Cat Nation because they had all these cool wild cats that were 2 to 3 times the size of house cats. And that's what was indigenous to the area.
Lions, just
correct, just a little bit bigger cat. And so there was all kinds of food, maize, berries, all these things. And not so much on the Black River where this station is, but nearby, the Vermilion River has tons of freshwater oysters. So this area is just really, it's the hunting grounds of the Native Americans who lived in this area. So like Eric said, in the research, it was just really cool to learn about the history. I did go back a couple hundred years for this because I want to talk about starting Elyria. But the books I read, they were going back 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And just the archaeological findings and stuff like that. And I even went to some talks about it at the library and things. So they were talking about different types of soils and, all the things they found. So
there's no shortage of history in Ohio, and most people probably don't realize that, but whether we're talking about the Native Americans or Civil War history, it's every place that we go up here around the lakes, Civil War history is very present and prominent. So
Next, I thought we'd talk about like the feel of the downtown area, because like when you get off, like if you just stop at the station, you don't really have a feel for what the town's like because it's just a small station and a small parking lot. You can't really see anything. It's like kind of off to the side.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of hidden off to the side. There's a nice little like historic building there. Which was that building that's right there
the
at the
old like
station?
freight depot.
The freight depot for the trains. So like that's cool. Like, and that's a nice little like visual. Like as soon as you get off the train, or if you're on the platform, just kind of looking around, you see that. There's a service station that's very close nearby. The station is actually pretty close to downtown Elyria, like the town Eli Square, where all of the fountain and the war memorials and all the businesses and stuff, the core businesses for Elyria, are just about a 15-minute walk away. So it's a little over half a mile from the station. You just go down the street a little bit, take a right, and you'll end up right there. There's also a 24/7 McDonald's open right there, very nearby, if you're getting off the train late and you're hungry, or you want a cup of coffee before you hit the road or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do down there once the businesses start opening up. Being right in the middle of the New York and Washington to Chicago routes for Amtrak, unfortunately, you're boarding and debarking the plane or the train at pretty late hours sometimes, typically between like 1 and 4 a.m. depending on which station that you're in. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff to do in Elyria. It's kind of a typical mid-size Midwest town.
So a couple things for the downtown. One of which is that it's the county seat. So since it's the county seat, it also has lots of county like administration buildings, courthouses, things like that. And one of the things that I really like about downtown Elyria and that they've done here, they did it with the high school, they did it with the city hall, they did it with their courthouse, is they renovated and retrofitted what they had. So they didn't tear down these buildings from the 1860s. I mean, there are some that they did, but the ones that they do have, they like renovated and then built additions onto them. So it sort of like melds into the rest. It's not like jarring, and it's also not like overdeveloped and like false feeling.
Yeah.
It just feels like really comfortable. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the fountain. I kept calling it a water fountain when it was in the history video. I was just rewatching that and I was like, it's not a water fountain. I mean, it is a fountain that has water in it.
I guess you could drink it.
But
I
don't know.
Real thirsty.
I don't know. But, they like were redoing that again and again and again. And one entry I found that I thought was interesting was in the 1910s, they had small turtles in there. And in 1916, they had an alligator. Mm-hmm. And then in the 1930s, they electrified it. And again, like Eric was saying, like for this region, you have to remember that like Ohio was like a super cosmopolitan place because first they built the New York, Erie Canal, and then they built the Ohio and Erie Canal. And so we were connected in Ohio to Europe, to the rest of the world, etc. And so because of these changes, I mean, it was pretty cosmopolitan. Like people were coming here, people were traveling here, and big businesses were starting, right? So we had electric lights in the 1930s because Thomas Edison grew up down the street, right? We invented streetlights in Cleveland. Standard Oil started, Goodyear, all these big types of businesses. So it was busy. I think Cleveland.
Remind me, what was the big industry in Elyria? I know here in Lorain we had like the shipbuilding and the steel mills. Was it something similar in Elyria since it's so close? Or
so in Elyria they had like a mixture of things. So they had a telephone company, right? So that was a big deal. They had the Worthington Company who made all kinds of like lace and dresses and things like that. They had Moen, which created all the faucets and things with like the screw handles. And then Rigid. So theirs was more like smaller S companies or like Garford.
It's like general manufacturing type
Correct.
stuff.
It was more like supplying the other things. And like I was saying, Garford, that big fancy house we went to, the Hickories.
Yeah, that place is really nice.
That's where the Lorraine Historical Society's home is the Hickories, which was the home of the Garford family.
Yeah.
And Garford was the guy who created the padded bicycle seat.
Yeah, I remember that specifically.
So like that place was just beautiful. And I know you did lots of the footage in the history episode. I don't know how much you did in the station information one, but yeah, I definitely would go see that place.
Yeah, it's worth a visit for sure.
Like dragging Eric to the historic houses and tours is like one of my pastimes, but I really, really enjoyed that house. It was really cool.
It is beautiful, even if you're not a history buff and you just enjoy art, beauty, architecture, anything like that. Like it's fun just walking around and seeing. I'm always amazed. I grew up in a rural part of Kentucky, and like things there can be old, but nothing like you see up here, like in the Northeast Ohio, or if you go up to the Northeast and the Boston and New York areas and stuff, where things are just, like really impressive buildings, architecture that they put a lot of time, effort, and money into hundreds of years ago. And this is a great example of, like a historic home that's been very, very well preserved and has incredible artwork all the way throughout it. The house itself is really kind of a work of art, and it's awesome that it's open to the public and used for events and things in Elyria.
It was a good transition house to see too, because like they had, I don't know if you remember, but they had like the electrical lights that were also double piped for gas. So all of the fixtures were both gas and electric, because when they first started that, people didn't know if it was going to stick around, kind of like Betamax or something like that. They were like, oh, let's hedge our bets and do both. And I could just imagine, like, so
that's kind of wild. But yeah, we went there a couple of times, and I know one, they had the car meet up there, like the historic cars, which was really cool, because they had stuff from the early 1900s all the way up into the 80s or so, and it was really neat just kind of getting to see all those, not just like personal vehicles. They had like trucks and transportation vehicles and stuff like that too. It was really cool.
Yeah, I did want to just like briefly touch upon the station, not the one you went to, but like the station I went to.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
like
the original station.
Yeah, like the old station from 1925. I think for Eric and
I got a personal tour of that. That's not open to the public.
Yeah, I get to sneak around in there sometimes when there's events. But I think that's one of the biggest things that we found riding Amtrak is that, like, when you go to these stations in these bigger cities, DC, Chicago, New York, these places are like malls. There's tons of restaurants in there. There are places to buy luggage. There are clothing shops. Like, it is amazing to have a place that you can go in your town and do these things.
Yeah.
And I just remember like Union Station just being like, wow, like this feels...
Which one? They're all called Union Station.
DC, Washington, DC. Just being like, wow, like this really serves all of my needs. And then because it serves all your needs, you can just find a hotel that's like really close, even if it is a little bit more pricey, because you're centrally located. So I really hope that they do move into having this as like a multimodal hub, so that you could wait in there for like a Greyhound or the Go Bus. I think they have the Go Bus now, which goes like to Cleveland and some of the other places, and for the Amtrak trains and such, because, having a bathroom, grabbing something to eat at the station, it's just convenient, and it makes it so much more comfortable, you know? And then also, revitalizing these buildings and saving them so that they're not being torn down, finding a functional use for them is just so important today. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they could kind of get their stuff together and reutilize that station here.
Yeah, I think they're working on it again.
Well, we've been rambling for a little bit about various things, but before we wrap up, I want to ask you, like, is there a particular highlight for you from your research on Elyria or just visiting it that you'd like to call out for folks who might be visiting?
that Garford house. Like, you know me, I force him to go to one of those historic houses every year for my birthday. So Eric's been dragged through a lot of them. But this one I really liked. There was a lot of really cool carvings in there. They had those like crests, remember, like on the windows there, like when you first walked in, and they had like that big carving thing when you walked in the front door. Like it really gives like.
I tried to get footage of that, but it was such a huge piece, and the space was so small, like it was really difficult to get.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was super neat.
And then just like the stairwell to go upstairs and all of that. Like I found, you know, and that's probably why I like the old homes is like they really sort of envelop you and you forget where you are. But like the park did that too. And that's why I wanted to bring it up is like, you don't realize, hey, I'm in a town of 50,000 people. You could be out in the middle of like some national park and feel the same.
Right.
Like being around those caves and stuff. Because like they are literally cold.
Yeah.
They're cold. Like being that close to them and being so deep. Like the trees are like 60 feet ahead, like above you. And some of those walkways are just, you know. So that's what I would say is the highlight for me. And I know we don't have any footage of the Foundry, but 100% the Foundry. Like every time we go there, I always eat something different, and that's not common. I usually eat the same thing. I don't know if that's from being an engineer or what, but like I eat the same thing over and over again, and it's repetitive. But going to the Foundry, like, yeah, I try new stuff all the time. Yeah. I'm like, oh, let's try this. Oh, let's get this for an appetizer. Like,
it's nice. It's so cool. I mean, speaking of historic buildings and stuff, like that's an old building that they've put to a new use, and it's a beautiful little bar and restaurant right there in downtown.
So, Eric, what would you say was your favorite part of going and stopping in Elyria and really taking the time? I know we did the Apple Festival as well. Like you said, we did one of the events at the Historical Society, and then all those other things. Like, what really stood out for you?
Well, definitely wasn't crashing my drone into the Black River.
Well, that did happen.
Which was fun, but...
Remember when you were trying to scale down that hill and you were like investigating and stuff?
Yeah, I was willing to do it. Veronica wouldn't allow me to risk my life.
Yeah, life and limb for a little piece of plastic. It was like a sheer cliff.
But no, definitely Cascade Park. Archie's back to say farewell as we bring it into our first fresh air break here where we've been talking about Elyria, Ohio. So thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. And if you ever get the chance to pick up your Amtrak rail pass, you know, put Elyria on your list of places to stop and check out. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. I don't know what to say.
That's okay.
Let me just make Archie wave. Boom, 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 boom.